to the CADWOLF tutorial on heat maps. So to start off with, we're going to do an introduction to what a heat map is and give you a quick example. Then we'll do an in-depth discussion on what options are available in the plot dialog. And then we're going to give a fairly high-res example of a heat map in CADWOLF. So a heat map is a pictorial representation of a matrix with colors. The indexes of the matrix are the X and Y values of the chart. And the color of the chart goes from blue for your low values, meaning sort of cold, to red for the high values, meaning hot, hence the term heat map. And you'll see what that means here in some of our examples. So let's just go to our standard test document. You can see we've got a matrix called sample data, which is just a 5x5 matrix of random data. And we've got a function named variable, which is 76 by 76. So let's add a chart, and we'll go to heat map. We'll add a data set, and you see the options here are the name and the actual data. So we'll enter our sample data matrix, and you see it's populated right away with the colors representing the values of that matrix. As we said, blue represents the low values and red represents the high values, and it transitions through green and yellow, hence the term heat map, with blue meaning cold or low and red meaning high or hot. So we can give this a name, which we did, random data. We go over to the parents and turn on the data labels. You can see the only options are to turn them on or off and then change the color of the labels. So we'll set them to white. So this is a standard heat map. Let's take a look at some of the options that are available for each heat map in our plot dialog here. So what you saw is the main section here will hold your actual plot. This will be represented exactly as it will be shown on the actual document. On the right, you have a section that we call the format section. And this is going to be where you change the type of chart, select the option that you're editing, add instances, and edit those instances. So within this format bar, you've got several sections here. The top section is where you select the type of chart you're going to be working on. You saw where we selected heat map. And the second section, you can choose the type of item you're going to be editing. Could be data, could be the format, could be the axes, bands, or lines. In the third section, you add and delete instances and then select which instance you're actually working on. And in the final section at the bottom, when you've selected an instance of any item, that section will be populated with options to edit the properties of that item. So what options can we edit? Well, you saw how we chose to edit previously the chart data. And that's going to let us add and delete data sets, edit what data is in there, and turn the labels on and off for heat maps. The format is also pretty simple. You're just going to be able to show and hide the titles, set the size and margins, and play a little bit with the legend. There are X and Y axes, and you can add and delete them, as well as edit their setup and appearance, just like every other type of chart. But I would be hesitant to change those too much in a heat map, since you want that data to line up normally. You can also add bands and lines, and you can do the standard options in each one to add and delete them, set their location, their axes, and their colors. And you can also add text, and there's also the standard formatting to add values to those text equations. So given that we've already seen pretty much all of the options that you have for editing a heat map, let's just go take a look at the formatting here. And we'll turn on the title and edit it. So you have pretty much the same options here as you would have in almost every other chart. Notice the legend here isn't really a legend as much as it is a color map that shows you the value of the low items and the red or hot items as well. So we exit that and we go back to the document. You can see how it's represented there. Now notice that we have this much higher resolution function, which we just named function. It's 76 by 76 as opposed to 5 by 5. So let's go back into our chart and go back over to the data. And let's turn off the labels before we forget that, because we're not going to want 76 by 76 labels. And change the actual data from sample data to function. And hit enter, and there's our sinusoid on the matrix there. So you can see how this can be valuable for picking out areas from a very large matrix, a very high resolution plot. And remember, our color map at the bottom shows -4 to +4. Remember, this was a sinusoid that was multiplied by 3. So the highest and lowest value are going to be 3 and -3. So we close this, and it appears on our document in the same way. Alright, so that's it for heat maps in CADWOLF. This was a quick tutorial, but you'll find all of these examples and all of the documentation in our documentation workspace. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.